Donald Trump has been serving people at McDonald's. Trump decided to do a little bit of a shift at a McDonald's in Philadelphia where he learned working in the back, you know, stacking up the fries, making the burgers, serving this to people. And we're getting the most interesting clips out of this whole moment that he took on. Honestly, a brilliant bit of PR. Whoever on his campaign staff decided that this was the way to go. So very smart, especially when we have Kamala Harris saying, oh, I worked at McDonald's in the 80s and, you know, I've lived that lifestyle before of a minimum wage worker, although that has not been substantiated. We just have her word saying that. We have no proof. Donald Trump said, you know what? I'm going to actually head to McDonald's and do the work and see what it's like. And now we have these clips.
Okay, let's say. You believe this? Look at this guy. He's a MAGA guy all the way.
Okay, so for his first order, yup.
Well, that's a good-looking group. Hello, everybody. This is not a normal situation, is it, huh? How are you? What a good-looking family. How did you produce those good-looking kids? Oh, they look like the wife. They look like the wife. How are you? Nice to see you. That's great. Thank you, man. Thank you very much. Thank you. And there'll be no charge. Trump is paying for it. Is that okay? Oh, you're doing some extra stuff.
Oh, okay, great.
This is all on Trump.
Oh, all on Trump.
I'm allowed to do that, right?
Let's check and make sure it's everything you said it would be.
It better be. It's going to be the best you ever. I made it myself.
You're the man. Make America great.
That's their order. Thank you, man. Thank you. Thank you. Have a good time.
Now you run the risk of this looking absolutely ridiculous. Imagine any other billionaire that you can think of showing up to a McDonald's and saying, I'm gonna work a shift for the day and see how it goes. And we've sort of seen things like that. You know, you saw like Charlie and Dixie D'Amelio, who are these big TikTok stars, pretend to work at Walmart and do it for some sort of stunt. And that did not land well. If you'd imagine like Taylor Swift going and working at any given minimum wage job on any given day to sort of see what it's like for the working people, it would come off as so false. It would come off as pandering. But because Donald Trump is just so real, this is landing with not only people on the right, but people in the center, people on the left, people who despise this man are saying, you know what, he actually got me for a moment here. This feels really wholesome. I like that he took time out of his day to go ahead and do this. Here's some more clips.
Tight. We've got the salt on it. Never touches the human hand. Very good. Nice and full. Thank you. Good. Tight.
And he's apparently amazed by the fact that they're not like grabbing the fries and throwing them in cartons. There's multiple clips. He's like, I thought the fries touched hands, and I'm so glad to know that they're not just grabbing the fries and throwing them in the carton for people. You have this.
I think he's a notorious germaphobe, by the way, so that might be where it comes from. So he's pleased to know they're following strict regulations there.
Yes, he's glad that nobody's hand is touching those damn fries.
Mr. President, you actually have worked at McDonald's now versus...
Now I have worked at McDonald's. I've now worked for 15 minutes more than Kamala.
Are you going to put this on your resume?
I never worked here.
Why would she lie about something like that? Will it be put on your resume?
I worked at McDonald's.
Why would she lie about that?
Because she's lying, Kamala.
Because she's lying, Kamala. I've worked 15 minutes longer than Kamala Harris. And I was thinking about this. Did Kamala Harris actually work at McDonald's? Because we've heard her say this over and over again. She gets interviewed about different McDonald's orders or whatever. They throw her these softball questions. She said stuff like this.
I worked at McDonald's. I was a student when I was working at McDonald's. There was not a family relying on me to pay the rent, put food on the table, and keep the bills paid by the end of the month. But the reality of McDonald's is that a majority of the folks who are working there today are relying on that income to sustain a household and a family. And if we want to talk about these golden arches being a symbol of the best of America, well, the arches are falling short. And we have got to recognize that working people deserve livable wages. Working people deserve in these places to know that there will be a safe working environment, which means free from any physical harm, including sexual assault or abuse or harassment.
Okay, you know, she's using this little story that she has as a sticking point for so many of her other campaign points. I don't know that the Golden Arches are a representation of the best of America, but okay, maybe from a capitalist standpoint, we can go there. Did she work at McDonald's though, guys? Let's ask our question, because I'm feeling the same way about it as I'm feeling about Tim Walz being in Tiananmen Square on the day, on that fated day. And he was just a knucklehead who gets lost in the rhetoric and says things that aren't actually true. Is Kamala Harris the same there? Now, we have no confirmation of this, but McDonald's actually did have to come out with a statement in the wake of Donald Trump being involved in them doing this whole PR / day as a service person at McDonald's moment for him. And they said, hey, we're not too deeply invested into politics or whatever. We would allow any presidential candidate to do the very same thing here. And we were happy to welcome President Donald Trump to our establishment and do this whole thing. Now, they do write, sorry, I'm going to pull this clip here. Though we are not a political brand, we've been proud to hear former President Trump's love for McDonald's and Vice President Harris's fond memory working under the arches. While we and our franchises don't have records for all positions dating back to the early 80s, what makes 1 in 8 so powerful is the shared experience so many Americans have had. Now we're wondering, is McDonald's trying to shade Kamala and say that, technically, we cannot confirm or deny whether or not this woman has actually ever stepped foot into McDonald's to work a day in her life. I haven't seen any pictures to substantiate that Kamala Harris has worked at McDonald's, and nobody has confirmed that this is actually the case. It is interesting. It's a crazy thing to lie about, because you'd think at some point they'd be able to figure it out, but maybe they are smooth enough to know that McDonald's doesn't have records dating back that far, and she can sort of just say whatever it is she wants to say without having to substantiate it. And I want a journalist somewhere to really look deeply into this story and confirm whether or not Kamala Harris actually worked at McDonald's, because I could see her lying about this. Now, a lot of people tried to accuse Donald Trump of lying on the other end of this and say he didn't really work at McDonald's. The McDonald's was closed. They posted this photo because the McDonald's, of course, put up a sign and said, hey, we are actually closed on this day, and, we're doing something different at this establishment. And people use this to sort of say Trump is lying. He didn't actually work a day at McDonald's. And to those people, I have to say, I'm sorry. Okay. Donald Trump is a former president right now, a current presidential candidate. Do you think they are just going to willy-nilly open up a damn McDonald's for anybody and their mother, brother, and sister to roll up to the McDonald's and see Donald Trump? Do you know how just surrounded that McDonald's would be within 10 minutes of that being figured out and announced? The amount of crowd control you would need to have a fully functioning, fully open McDonald's if President Trump was going to be there would be insane. Not to mention the fact that maybe 2.5, I guess, assassination attempts have been carried out on this man's life. You think they're going to leave him in the open drive-through window of a McDonald's for anybody to just roll up on this man and do whatever it is they want? Absolutely not. So, of course, they're going to close the McDonald's and make sure they know exactly who's coming through the window to get their order from Donald Trump. I also wouldn't be surprised if they did a Secret Service detail for every single car that would have went through that window. I would imagine that they have agents come and scan every inch of a car or people who are going to get anywhere near Donald Trump. So it's no surprise he wasn't trying to pull the wool over your eyes and pretend to be a McDonald's worker for the day when the place was actually closed. They put this together and planned and organized it, funnily enough. That's typically how these things work. Just nuts.
Now, we asked you guys here in the chat, was Trump's McDonald's visit positive or negative for him? And 87% are saying positive, 2% negative, and the rest of you fence sitters just say not sure, so results. But I think it's really interesting that, Kamala is trying to associate herself with having worked there. She may have not. But Trump's not claiming necessarily to be this middle-class person. Everyone knows that he inherited some wealth and then, built his businesses and has been a billionaire in the center of pop culture for many decades. But what he does come off as is authentic, is good with people, is sincere, is genuinely interested in other folks. And he's just good at this. And I think that this was a great look for him. And I think that other politicians that we've seen, you mentioned in celebrities as well, it ends up feeling like they're kind of cosplaying, being a lower class, middle class. With Trump, it's like there's a certain latent self-awareness and just sort of down to earthness that even though he is this larger than life figure, even though he is wealthy, even though he is a former president, he just has a way of kind of cutting through and feeling authentic with other people, and it lacks pretense. And I think you see a lot of that in his rhetoric and in his rallies and in his podcast appearances. He did that video with Bryson DeChambeau, my personal favorite, the golfer, and you just get to see him completely comfortable, completely himself, not pulling punches, not trying to manipulate the situation, not reading off a script, not having pre-prepared talking points, but being present. And I think that just reflects well on him. So I think you guys are right that this was a positive, even though it was kind of risky to put himself out there like that. But I think he ended up looking good just because he's got an air of authenticity about him that other politicians just don't have.
Yeah, and this is not the first time that he's done something like this. Actually, in 2011, there's this whole video where you can check him out. He's working a shift at his own hotel and taking care of guests, and it's the sort of thing that you would just do. And I think maybe there's just an understanding of the different levels of society and the different way that people lead their lives when you are a business owner, to the extent that he is a business owner, and this understanding that like you need to get down to what people would consider to be the lower levels in order to just understand what people are doing, understand what the incentive structures are, and just see how people's lives are led. And I think Trump has an authenticity when he does that, where you can throw him in the room with anybody, somebody who loves him, somebody who's adversarial to him, somebody that has no understanding of his lifestyle and he has no understanding of theirs, and he's just willing to have a conversation, be curious, be himself, and ask questions. Whereas Kamala Harris, you put her in any room, she is so focused on how she's being perceived, how she's coming off, that nothing comes out of her mouth as being natural. And that's just what happens. And that's why she pulls all these accents, or she's laughing uncomfortably, or she gets riled up, or she doesn't have answers to questions, because she's so focused on how she's being perceived and has such a lack of authenticity that if she had done something like this, like went to a McDonald's, I wouldn't be surprised if she showed up and started like talking in Ebonics to people and just being crazy Kamala, like she is, because she can't be real, like not for a moment in her life.
Sure.
You better thank a union member. Have you
do it again in 2024.
Oh gosh. Yeah, it's just crazy, man. I think I've seen like one authentic clip of Kamala Harris talking, and it happened to be an interview that she did with Howard Stern, where he asked her about like F1 driving, and you finally see some authenticity of her, because you can tell she's genuinely interested in F1 driving, and that like it is something that her and her family view as like a hobby of theirs. And that's one moment where I actually watched the clip and I said, that is the real Kamala Harris. For about 10 seconds it existed, and then she goes off on her old pandering. So it's not that she's incapable of doing it. I think she's just so uncomfortable, and she's rightfully feeling so much imposter syndrome in the position that she's in, that she simply cannot be herself. Because to be yourself is to not be qualified for the position that you're seeking right now. To be honest. Sorry. Had to say it.